Good evening. My name is Keith Brandt, and I'm the pastor of the Monroe Street Christian Church in Los Angeles, California. Welcome. This is our Wednesday evening prayer meeting and Bible study. And we are going to continue, Lord willing, in our study of the book of Daniel. And this is the study book we've been using from the Smart Guide to the Bible series. And the authors of this particular study of the book of Daniel are Damon R. Duck and Larry Richards, Ph.D. So we're going to continue. We're getting close to the end of the book, and the 11th chapter is where we are. And in the 11th chapter, we're having the definition and instruction from the vision that Daniel is being given. And the angel is speaking a lot of the time and informing him about what will be happening in his lifetime, but also what is going to happen in the years that come, including Alexander the Great and all of those that came after him. So we are now in Daniel chapter 11, and I want to begin at just the last paragraph before that in our study book, when our commentator says, God tells us to love our enemies, but revenge is just the opposite. It's something God hates and has even been known to make him angry. Some say revenge is sweet, but it is unlikely that Laodice would say that. And Laodice was a wife who was eventually murdered of one of these leaders, and that's why he's referring to her. Before taking revenge, one should ponder the fact that it is a terrible thing to come under the judgment of God. So we continue as we're talking about so much of what is happening between the king of the north and the king of the south. The king of the north refers to Syria. The king of the south refers to Egypt. The topic of this specific verse that we're going to read in Daniel 11:8, at least the topic that our commentators is given, is named Helpless Gods. Daniel 11:8. And he shall also carry their gods captive into Egypt. Now he's referring to the, I believe, the king of the north, the king of the south takes possession of the gods, the false gods of the king of the north. And he carries their gods captive into Egypt, and with their princes and their precious articles of silver and gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So the king of the south is going to reign longer or be alive longer at the very least than the king of the north at this point. Remember, the king of the south and the king of the north both occupy a place in dynastic rule. So when one dies, the next generation gets up and rules, all right? So we go on, and the commentator says, the angel focused his prophecy on the gods and riches of Syria. Ptolemy Euergetes, Bernice's brother, would seize the Syrian gods, images, and valuables and take them back to Egypt. And it would be a long time before the two kingdoms fought each other again. Historians say that Ptolemy Euergetes was on the verge of capturing all of Syria when he received word of an insurrection back home in Egypt. He quickly grabbed up all the valuables he could find and returned to Egypt. According to Jerome, he took 4,000 talents of gold and 40,000 talents of silver and 2,500 Syrian idols. Now, I don't know if that means that they had 3 idols and they took 2,500 copies of just those 3, or if that is what it most probably is referring to, is that they had so many idols that they took 2,500 of them captive. Now, obviously, they were false gods, but most rulers, when they would conquer another nation, to show their winning of the battle, would take the gods that that nation had revered. Yes?
Not only that, they will also eclipse the holy days of those they conquered and make them their own.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. The commentator continues, listen to what the Bible says about idols. Their idols are silver and gold, the works of men's hands. They have mouths, but they do not speak. Eyes they have, but they do not see. They have ears, but they do not hear, and noses they have, but they do not smell. They have hands, but they do not handle. Feet they have, but they do not walk, nor do they mutter through their throat. Those who make them are like them. So is everyone who trusts in them. And that's from Psalm 115, verses 4 and 8. Worshipping idols is a waste of time, but multitudes will worship the image of the Antichrist during the tribulation period. Now let's just touch on that a little further and say that idol worship is a form of witchcraft. And all of that practice is induced by Satan himself and all the demonic realms. And people that subscribe them or ascribe themselves to this, they are being influenced over and over again by demonic evil. And it's a horrible, horrible influence, of course. The north strikes back. Daniel 11:9. Also, the king of the north shall come to the kingdom of the south, but shall return to his own land. The next angelic prediction was that Syria would invade Egypt. However, Syria would not be successful and would have to retreat to their own country. The Syrian king, Callinicus, directed an attack on Egypt, but lost the battle and had to return home empty-handed. Daniel 11:10. However, his son shall stir up strife and assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overwhelm and pass through. Then he shall return to his fortress and stir up strife. The next angelic prediction was that the sons of Callinicus would prepare for war, organize an army, and quickly move against one of the main Egyptian fortresses. Callinicus had two sons. History reveals that the oldest became king first. Well, that sounds reasonable. He prepared to attack Egypt, but was a poor and unpopular leader. So two of his generals poisoned him. Then the youngest son, Antiochus the Great, assumed the throne. He continued the war preparations, was a better leader, and launched an attack. He won a big victory against the Egyptians at Gaza and considered trying to conquer the entire nation. The King James Bible commentary refers to this and says, the sons of Seleucus II were Seleucus III, called variously Cyrannus or Soter, and Antiochus III the Great. Seleucus III was assassinated in 223 BC. So Antiochus III took over, eventually running roughshod over Ptolemy IV in the land of Egypt. Later he was defeated in the north, but he eventually captured the fortress of Gaza in Palestine. The Antichrist will move into the Middle East. He will then take an army and move south through Gaza and take Egypt. Several other nations will also fall at that time. Now, I'm not saying that all of this completely choreographs how the Antichrist is going to do everything when he does come to power. But this is an idea of how it may happen.
And this, when that's happening, that's already during the tribulation period.
Well, the Antichrist will be during the tribulation period. What he's describing in the vision, he's not describing the acts of the Antichrist. He's describing of what's going to be happening in their time frame, not Daniel's necessarily, but the history between Daniel and the coming of the Messiah.
So how does the commentator get to that?
How does he equate that to the Antichrist?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because of what he gets out of the book of Revelation, and also so many of these actions typify what is going to happen later on. The broader picture will be later. The smaller picture is earlier. That's a good question. We may go over that at another time. The Antichrist will move into the Middle East. He will then take an army and move south through Gaza and take Egypt. I read that. Several other nations will also fall at that time. Also, you have to understand what we studied in Ezekiel. About what will be going on, because some of these cover the same time frames in the prophetic, is how some of this is explained. Daniel 11:11. And the king of the south shall be moved with rage, and go out and fight with him, with the king of the north, who shall muster a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into the hand of his enemy. The angel told Daniel that Egypt would be angered and go out to fight Syria. Syria would have a great army, but it would be defeated. Ptolemy Philopator replaced his father Ergenetus as king of Egypt. He had a terrible temper, was greatly angered by Syria's victory at Gaza. He finally struck back and defeated Syria's great army. Isn't it interesting that in our news today we hear the word Gaza so often?
Mm-hmm.
Stephen R. Miller says, in response, Ptolemy IV, Philopator, 221 through 203 BC, launched a counterattack. Both armies were quite large. According to Polybius, Ptolemy's forces consisted of 70,000 infantry, 5,000 cavalry, and 73 elephants. Whoa. Whereas Antiochus's army had 62,000 infantry, 6,000 cavalry, and 102 elephants. No, the one just before him, I believe. And that was in 217 BC. Ptolemy had won a great victory over the Syrians at Raphia, located in Palestine. Now, these commentators are saying Palestine, but it is the territory that Israel ruled when they were in force, okay? Temper Longman III says, the story of Antiochus III, the Great's reign, continues through verses 19. The significance given to his reign likely much to do with the fact that it was through his agency that Palestine finally shifted from Ptolemaic control to Seleucid control, thus setting the scene for the horrors of his son's reign. And the Seleucid son would be Antiochus Epiphanes, okay? This section's called Pride Goes Before Destruction, Daniel 11:12. When he has taken away the multitude, his heart will be lifted up, and he will cast down tens of thousands, but will not prevail. I think some of this is being contrasted with the Antichrist, because the Antichrist will do exploits similar to these, but in the long run, he will not prevail. Here the angel told Daniel that the victory of Ptolemy Philopator over Antiochus the Great would cause Philopator to be lifted up with pride. He would slaughter many thousands, but his victory would not turn out to be a great triumph. When Ptolemy Philopator defeated Antiochus the Great at Raphia, he killed 10,000 Syrians, took several thousand prisoners, but because of his pride, he did not follow up on his victory. Instead of continuing on into Syria to capture the whole kingdom, he signed a foolish peace treaty with Antiochus the Great and returned home to receive glory and have a good time.
Is that?
That's not, no, that's the one before. The Antichrist will be filled with pride and will defeat many nations. His move through the Middle East will be a blitzkrieg. And not everybody knows that term, but that was a term for what the Germans in the Second World War would accomplish in areas of victory, and usually had something to do with some air triumphs too. But anyway, he says his move through the Middle East will be a blitzkrieg, but his triumphs will come to an end, and he will have no one to help him. Daniel 11:13, for the king of the north will return and muster a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come at an end of some years with a great army and much equipment. This time the angel prophesied that Syria would muster a larger army and better equipped army, and after several years he would advance on Egypt once again. The peace treaty that Ptolemy Philopater signed with Antiochus the Great let the Syrian king take his army and return home. Upon his return, Antiochus started a program to rebuild his military. Some covenants are just tools to buy time or gain an advantage. Over the next 14 years, he built a powerful force, suppressed all of his enemies, enriched his nation, and began to reach out and take whatever he wanted. Soon he received word that the Egyptian king Ptolemy Philopater had died, and his 5-year-old son Ptolemy Epiphanes had succeeded him. Antiochus the Great looked at the situation and decided it would be a good time to attack Egypt. So he broke his covenant and struck Egypt, thinking he would have an easy victory. And as far as I know, Ptolemy Epiphanes has nothing to do with Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay? Daniel 11:14. Now in those times many shall rise up against the king of the south. Also violent men of your people shall exalt themselves in fulfillment of the vision, but they shall fall. So remember, the angel is talking to Daniel. So at this point he's talking also about the Jews at some time frame will also try to fight, but they will fail. Yes. The angel predicted rebellion against Egypt. Your own people refers to Daniel's people, the Jews. The angel predicted that the wicked Jews would join the rebellion against Egypt, but without success. Many of Egypt's most influential citizens were greatly disappointed when Ptolemy Epiphanes was crowned king. Some of them banded together and rebelled against his leadership, killing several of the king's most faithful subjects. There were also Jews within Egypt and back in Israel who joined the rebellion. All these rebels believed that Antiochus the Great would defeat Egypt, so they wanted to be on the right side. What they did not count on was Egypt signing a mutual aid treaty with Rome. See, Rome is coming to the forefront now. That powerful nation entered the picture and changed everything. There will be wicked Jews during the tribulation period who will join forces with the Antichrist. Many Jews will oppose the covenant with Antichrist, but some wicked Jews will betray their people and sign it. So I think we understand that in every nation there are good and there are bad in all the groups. In fulfillment of the vision is an interesting phrase, and that comes from the texture of Daniel 11:14. We'll look at again. Now, in those times, many shall rise up against the king of the south. Also, violent men of your people shall exalt themselves in fulfillment of the vision, but they shall fall. So the vision that is being presented to Daniel and described for him is prophetic. And it will have fulfillment. And that's what he's saying. Yes, certainly. And they should be seen that way. And I think he's just emphasizing that for Daniel. So he says this will happen. This is going to come to pass. It reminds us of the vision of the ram and the goat in chapter 9. That vision reveals that the people of the ruler who will come, the Romans, would destroy Jerusalem and the temple after the anointed one was killed. That's after Jesus was crucified. We know the Romans did this in 70 AD, but this present verse has them moving into the Middle East in fulfillment of the vision. See, it's not the vision of what's going to happen with Jesus or his time, but what's happening before that. In other words, it was the providence of God that Rome went to Egypt's aid that put them in position to fulfill the vision of the ram and the goat. Daniel 11:15. So the king of the north shall come and build a siege mound and take a fortified city, and the forces of the south shall not withstand him. Even his choice of troops shall have no strength to resist. I don't know how Daniel's taking all of this in. And I don't know if the vision just is him seeing an angel speaking to him, or if there's a panoramic view and he's watching all this happen while the angel's describing it. I don't think we know. Because when you look at the book of Revelation, there is visionary things in the book of Revelation that John is being shown and is described, and we from that description can see it. So I don't know how this is being presented to Daniel, but it's spectacular however it's happening.
Sentence of the verse, what does it mean when it says, even his choice troops shall have no strength to resist?
So the king of the north shall come and build a siege mound and take a fortified city, and the forces of the south shall not withstand him. Even his choice troops shall have no strength to resist. I think it must be referring to the king of the south's troops.
Oh, like his best troops.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is Egypt's troops. This is more detail from the angel concerning the previous verse. He predicted that Syria would capture an Egyptian fortified city. He added that Egypt's forces would be powerless to stop him, and that even the best Egyptian troops would not be strong enough to stop Syria. The rebellion resulting from crowning a 5-year-old boy king as king of Egypt, and the insurrection of the Jews greatly weakened Egypt. This was just what Antiochus wanted. So he set out to attack Egypt. Unfortunately for Antiochus, the Romans had entered the picture, and they had one of their experienced ministers serving as a guardian and as assistant to the young king. He called on a famous Egyptian general named Scopas to help. Scopas quickly organized an army and went out to meet Antiochus the Great, but he wasn't strong enough. And Antiochus the Great defeated his army. After defeat, Scopas and a few of his troops fled to the fortress of the city of Sidon. But Antiochus the Great pursued them and laid siege to that city. Egypt got word and sent troops to help, but they were not strong enough to defeat Antiochus either. He defeated them, starved out the besieged Egyptians, captured the fortress city of Sidon, and sent the surviving troops away stark naked. Everything the angel said was accomplished. Wow. Daniel 11:16 is titled, Poor Israel. The angel says, but he who came against him shall do according to his own will, and no one shall stand against him. He shall stand in the glorious land with destruction in his power. An angel is providing all this information about Syria and Egypt because their struggles greatly affected Israel. I think we need to understand that everything we're listening to and everything that he's being told, and so much of it is about the king of the north and the king of the south, the only reason they have any value in the prophetic context is because it all concerns Israel. It all concerns what's going to happen upon the earth. Doesn't mean Israel's always right, but Israel is the one that God is using to bring forth the fulfillment in the end times, and beginning by bringing his son through them. And so that is in Daniel's future expectation, which he will not personally witness at that time. Every time one country attacked the other, the invading army had to pass through Israel. It didn't happen every time, but the Jews often took a beating. The angel revealed these things to Daniel's understanding, and although we are receiving a lot of information about Syria and Egypt, this is really a message about Daniel's people, Israel. Here the angel predicted that Antiochus the Great would do as he pleased. No one would be strong enough to stop him. He would settle down in the glorious land and be strong enough to destroy it. The Egyptians were weak, and they knew it. They had signed a mutual aid treaty with Rome, so they asked Rome for help. The Romans were rapidly becoming a great power, so they warned Antiochus the Great not to invade Egypt. So Antiochus held back and settled down in Israel while he pondered his options. He had the power to destroy Israel, but did not, because of the Jews who had rebelled and supported him in Egypt. Rodney Stort says, this fulfilled prophecy shows us that God is sovereign in the affairs of men and nations. No one comes to power except those God places in that position of authority. Paul says in Romans 13:1, everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Daniel 11:2-20 shows this to be true. Now, there are a lot of conversations that could come from what I just read, but we're going to go on. During the tribulation period, the Antichrist will invade the glorious land and use it as a base to attack other nations. He will receive power from Satan and do as he pleases for 3.5 years. John said, the people will worship him, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Revelation 13:4. He will be like Lucifer, who said, I will ascend up into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. That's from Isaiah 14:13 and 14. God said he will be cast down into Sheol, that's hell or the pit. That is what will happen to the Antichrist. He will locate his headquarters at the glorious holy mountain, and that is where he will be when he is captured and cast into the lake of fire. Revelation 19:20. Now it says, try diplomacy. Daniel 11:17. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women to destroy it, but she shall not stand with him or before him. The angel told Daniel that Antiochus would be determined in his desire to capture Egypt. In order to do that, he would join forces with Egypt. He would give one of his daughters in marriage to the king of Egypt in order to overthrow the Egyptian kingdom, but it would not work. Fear of drawing the Romans into the conflict on the side of Egypt and having to fight both nations at the same time caused Antiochus the Great to occupy the land of Israel while he waited and strengthened his forces. But his fear did not deter him from wanting to conquer Egypt. It just caused him to change his tactics. By this time, Ptolemy Epiphanes, the child king of Egypt, was about 7 years old, and Antiochus the Great had a daughter who was a little older, perhaps as much as 5 or 6 years older. Her name was Cleopatra. Antiochus the Great suggested that Syria and Egypt stop fighting and sign a peace treaty. He suggested that Ptolemy and Cleopatra marry to seal the treaty. Antiochus the Great thought his daughter would be loyal to him, dominate the young Egyptian king, and help bring about Syria's acquisition of Egypt. But Cleopatra did not cooperate. She was loyal to her husband and sided with the Egyptians against her own father. Whoa. The false treaty did not work. Merrill Unger says, in his strategy, Antiochus was seeking to destroy Egypt without openly attacking her, for he feared intervention from Rome if he did so. So he arranged to give him, the young King Ptolemy V. Epiphanes, his daughter Cleopatra as a wife. Antiochus' ultimate plan was to use that marriage to ruin Egypt in order to further his own ambitions of conquest. Today, the Arabs and PA are, I don't understand what PA is. Today, the Arabs and PA, or PA, maybe that's a special place, are suggesting that Israel should swap land for peace. Oh, PA, the Palestinian Authority. Yes. Today, the Arabs and the Palestinian Authority are suggesting that Israel should swap land for peace. Let's remember that this commentary was written, 19 years ago? Okay. Yeah. Yes, maybe more than that. But there are two definitions of peace in the Arab language. The first definition is the true peace we Americans think of. It is the kind of peace that has existed between the United States and Canada for many years. The second definition is the peace of Saladin. That is a truce that can be broken at a convenient time. When Arab leaders speak to their Arab brothers, they make it plain that land for peace means the peace of Saladin. They are talking about a peace that can be broken to bring about the destruction of Israel. When Muslim militants say Islam is a peaceful religion, it should be understood that they are really warmongers trying to bring about peace by forcing the whole world to convert to Islam. They are at war with non-Muslims, and there can be no peace until there are no non-Muslims. The Antichrist will be a wolf in sheep's clothing. This means he will actually be a warmonger, but he will come on the scene as a man of peace. He will sign a peace treaty to protect Israel. I'll say in quotes. But he will break the treaty 3.5 years later. Then he will try to destroy the Jews. His sweet-sounding words will be a charade, and his written agreements will be worthless pieces of paper. This is not the same Cleopatra who was famous for her relationship with the great Roman leaders Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. That Cleopatra reigned between 69 and 30 BC. But this Syrian Cleopatra reigned more than 100 years earlier. There were 7 Egyptian queens named Cleopatra. Well, I didn't know that. Yeah. Right.
That happens to be his name, but
Right.
he doesn't have to take it, yeah.
Right.
The Pope, yeah.
Yeah. Daniel 11:18 says, after this he shall turn his face to the coastlands and shall take many. But a ruler shall bring the reproach against them to an end. And with the reproach removed, he shall turn back on him. The next thing the angel prophesied was that Antiochus would abandon his plans to take Egypt and go after the coastlands. He would be successful at first, but a commander would end his rampage, and Antiochus would reap what he sowed. Antiochus the Great was furious over Rome's protection of Egypt and his daughter's betrayal. He assembled a 300-ship navy and started seizing the cities and islands along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. However, most of these coastal cities were under Roman control, and Rome was not about to let Antiochus the Great take their territory. To prevent this, the Romans commissioned a young naval commander named Scipio to take the fleet of Roman warships and go after the Syrian vessels. This may be pronounced Scipio. Scipio found and sank most of the Syrian navy, thereby turning Antiochus the Great's insolence back upon himself. The Romans would be in control of Israel when the anointed one, Jesus, came. They are the people who would destroy Jerusalem and the temple. This verse points to their arrival on the scene in the Middle East. They, the old Roman Empire, would be there for the first coming. It means, I think, the first coming of Jesus. And they, the revived Roman Empire, will be back for the second coming of Jesus. In fact, the king of the north will attack them with many ships during the tribulation period, but he will be defeated. No, 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 no. No, but it's the same territory. Right. Yeah, yeah.
Has not came in yet.
Not yet. I think he comes immediately after.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Says the tax man cometh, is what this says in the book. Daniel 11:19. Then he shall turn his face toward the fortress of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. The angel continued revealing the vision to Daniel. He predicted that Antiochus would return to his own country following his defeat along the coastlands, but things would not go well in his homeland. He would stumble and be seen no more. Antiochus the Great returned home with one eye looking over his shoulder. He expected the Roman army to be right on his heels. As soon as he got home, he sent messengers to Rome seeking peace. The Romans had the upper hand and were in no mood to be generous. They offered peace, but at a very high price. Antiochus the Great had to give them all the territory he controlled in Europe, a big chunk of what he controlled in Asia, all but 10 of his warships, and an enormous tribute and heavy taxes every year for the next 12 years. He agreed to these terms, but had trouble coming up with the money, and was killed while trying to seize it a few months later. Wow. The next says no tax cuts under this administration. Daniel 11:20. There shall arise in his place one who imposes taxes on the glorious kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, but not in anger or in battle. Here the angel prophesied the future of the successor to Antiochus the Great. He would send out the tax collector to keep payments going, but shortly thereafter he would be destroyed. He would not die, however, in anger or in battle. Antiochus the Great was succeeded by his oldest son, Seleucus Philopator, and Seleucus inherited the large debt his father agreed to pay in order to obtain peace with Rome. He raised taxes to meet the agreement, but his nation was so impoverished he had trouble collecting them. By the time he neared the last year of the 12-year taxation clause, he was in financial crisis. He desperately instructed his treasurer to go to Jerusalem and confiscate the gold and silver vessels that were being used in the temple. A short time later, someone poisoned him. Oliver Green says, in each instance concerning the battles, the victories and the defeats of these kings of the north and of the south, we see over and over again the wages of sin is death, and God is not mocked. Whether we are king or peasant, if God is for us, who can be against us? But by the same token, whether we are king or peasant, if God is against us, we are defeated. Mm-hmm. We're going to end here. Yes.
Or Pastor, do you want to read the last, just the next paragraph?
Oh, the last comment, yes. The Antichrist will not die in battle. He will be captured by Jesus at the second coming and thrown alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Yes.
During this whole conflict with the North and the South, Israel is a free nation? In
Israel is a nation that is trying to maintain their nationality, but they are constantly being violated and occupied.
Okay, but they're not under anyone at the
Well,
time.
yes, when the Seleucids. Yeah. The last thing said that Antiochus the Great was living among them. And so he was in control of the nation, pretty much. He may not have had much to do with their religious system, but as far as the government and anything by which they made any income, he probably took a lot of it.
He was biding his time building up his forces.
Yeah, okay, so then that's why when he says that his money was running out or a financial crisis, and that he then went to the temple and took the gold pots from the temple, that's because he had the power to do so.
Yes, and it's reminiscent of what happened in the Babylonian captivity when they took all the vessels out of the temple and took them to Babylon.
Yes.
Now, obviously, or at least for the most part, the majority of all those things were taken back for the second temple to be rebuilt when Cyrus and Darius let them go back, and they rebuilt the temple. So it's possible, and probably probable, no pun intended, that some of the same vessels that had been brought back from Babylon are among these that they're taking. Certainly the same type of vessels, because the worship instructions for what's supposed to go on in the temple worship and everything had not changed. Obviously, their religious structure had not been in real good shape, or they would never been invaded. So, anyway, we'll pick this up next time, page 294 in this book, at Daniel 11:18, titled, "In Come the Romans." All right. Well, God bless you all. We'd love to have you visit us some Sunday morning. Tonight, we are so grateful to be here. And say God bless you. And good night.
Pastor, can you give a reminder for Sunday's short service and a funeral service?
Yes, this coming Sunday. I've been told I'm to give a short sermon. That means we're going to start right at 11 this Sunday. And because we have our funeral service for our beloved friend and brother, Roland Irvin. His middle name was Ollie. Roland Ollie Irvin. And we're going to celebrate his life after church as we go together to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery on Santa Monica near Bronson and have his service there. You're welcome to join us. If you knew Roland, please come. Anyway, God bless you. Have a great evening. You're always welcome.